Hello, good afternoon. This is Paul Denneman, and I'm trying to bring you some information on the APICS CLTD program. What is the program for to become certified in logistics, transportation, and distribution? I will present you with the overview of the program and some tips in how to study and how to attain this certification. What we will see and do this afternoon is first start with a small introduction. Theodora already started, and I will continue with my part and introducing myself. After that, I will look forward to what APICS certification is and what type of certifications there are. Then we will get into an overview of the Certified Logistics, Transportation and Distribution program, which consists of 9 modules, and in total you have to do 1 exam to become certified. How do I earn that certification? I will focus on the 4 steps, what brings you to success, what means we have to plan your study. You have to study the materials, you reinforce the concept and practice, and after that you take the exam. And last but not least, why should you earn the CLTD designations? And I will give you 5 key takeaways why you have to go into this program. After that, there is some time left. We will, as Theodora mentioned, maybe use the time to answer the question online, but put them in the webinar, ask the questions, and certainly you will get your answers during the webinar, after the webinar, or even by mail afterwards. Starting with the next part of the introduction, who am I? My name is Paul Denneman. I'm a Master of Science in Industrial Engineering and Management Sciences. Of course, I'm certified in CLTD, but also in the other programs, CPIM, CSCP, and I'm also a certified healthcare supply chain analyst. So did a lot of those parts. I live in Eindhoven, the Netherlands, so basically almost in the same time zone, and I see myself as a supply chain professional. What means that I'm a consultant. I do most of my work by consulting companies and being a subject matter expert. And currently, for instance, I'm doing a big assignment at Lonza Pharmaceuticals in setting up the complete supply chain and implementing an ERP system to run the complete operations. I'm an international master trainer, speak at conferences and tell a lot of stories because I have a lot of experience in supply chain. I'm working in that area for over 25 years and seen a lot of companies, a lot of people, and provided a lot of trainings. I'm engaged in the transition of complex supply chains, and most of the times in areas where legislations and regulations plays an important role. That means that you get me excited at the moment. Supply chains become difficult, and difficult because the law is saying something, but also if it's regulated. You can think in areas like chemical, like pharmaceutical, like medical, high tech, where I do a lot of my parts. Furthermore, I'm one of the 5 APICS accredited trainers worldwide who are master trainer in all the 3 certification programs. So I'm allowed on the highest level to train people to become certified either in CLTD, CPIM, or CSCP. In that way, I trained over 1,000 professionals in more than 100 companies, and I'm a senior expert trainer working for Leoron since 2015. You will find all the details of my resume and all the companies I worked for, I consulted, on my LinkedIn profile, and will continue with the element what APICS certification is. APICS certification. APICS started somewhere in the early 70s as, at that time, the American Production and Inventory Control Society. That was an organization who wants to bring people together working in the field of production and inventory management. They recognized at that moment that they needed something in, let's say, the same terms and definition and some way of a certification. So in that part, and that was somewhere in the late 70s, they started the certification in production and inventory management, the CPIM certification. That is still the oldest certifications, and a lot of companies in the world accepted this certification as the proof that you know something about logistics. Somewhat later, then we are talking about, let's say, the end of the past century, they started with another certification, and it was the Certified in Supply Chain Professional. That certification is therefore now almost 20 years, over 20 years, and is delivering people who are focusing on the complete supply chain. The last certification we are having, it's where we are talking about today. That's the Certified in Logistics, Transportation and Distribution certification, and that one is focusing on what is in the word logistics, distribution and transportation. The basic part of what APICS is doing, it's looking, and what I currently also have acquired, that's the Supply Chain Council, in the SCORE model, the Supply Chain Operating Reference. That one is, if we look in all the elements of the supply chain, we plan the supply chain, then we need to source, we make it, we deliver it, and we get return flows. What they did over the past years is make profiles for all types of functions in the different areas of the supply chain. And they recognize that the operations manager is basically the manager who's focusing from plan, source, make, deliver, and return. So basically internal processes, and the supply chain manager is looking above it. If we then take transportation and distributions managers, they mostly focus at the end side. Products are being made and we deliver them, and they are focusing on the return process. If we look to planning managers, they look in all the schedules, make all the schedules, and typically the sourcing part is part of the procurement department. In APICS certifications, we have the different flavors. The CPIM, Certified Production and Inventory Management, is typically focusing in how we plan, how we source, and how we make the products. That's typically a certification what is focusing internal in the company. The other one is the so-called CLTD, Certified in Logistics, Transportation and Distribution. That's focusing on, let's say, the movements within our warehouses, our internal warehouses, but more of that focusing on the deliver and on the return process, going outside. And the CSCP, Certified Supply Chain Professional, is focusing on the complete chain. So with a lot of elements inside that supply chain, like customer relationship management, supplier relationship management, and an overall view of all the planning elements. Bringing that one back in some bullet points, then CPIM is focused on streamlining the internal operations across, of course, the complete supply chain, but more focusing on how we create parts. Of course, there's an overlap with the other programs, because if we see terms like inventory management and cycle counting, that's also typically something what is in Certified logistics, transportation, and distribution. In that one, we optimize the order, inventory, and warehouse management flows, looking at the outside of our company, how the connections are being made with our suppliers, but most of all, also our customers. That one is focusing on logistics management, 3PLs and logistics services, direct or indirect manufacturing, meaning are we making it by ourselves or are we going to outsource it? The transportation part, of course, distribution channels like e-commerce and all import and export elements inside of it. The CSAP, what is known by a lot of people, it's to master the end-to-end supply chain. It's looking more or less to the design of a supply chain, supplier relationship management, customer relationship management, and in a higher level, 3PLs, 4PLs, transportation, customs, and distribution channels. In the CSAP, you are looking like a helicopter over the supply chain. In the CLTD, you will look internally and connect all the parts, what is outside your company from supplier to the customer. If you are going into a CLTD program, then you become one of the persons who will be in the forefront of logistics, transportation, and distribution. And what APICS has proven is that most of the people who take this certification, they increase their salary level with 21%. And in general, if you have any APICS certification, the salaries are most of the times 80% higher than other certification. So it makes sense to go into whatever certification of APICS. But most of all, and if I look back to that one, you need to figure out what the area is you are working the most in. Is that internally? Is that in logistic, transportation, or distribution? Or is it more on a helicopter view level and look to that part? Why is that important? Because of course you need to get the certification what suits best with your daily work. Is it important for employers what you are getting? Most of the times they know that there is an overlap in the programs and they are more interested in the fact that you are certified and less in the fact which APICS certification you will get. We look to the complete part of the CLTD program, and in that one you are going to figure out if the topics we are going to discuss, if that's part of your daily work. If it's all, let's say, abracadabra, then it might be that there are also the other programs which are more suitable, and we are willing to help you with choosing the right program to go. APICS CLTD, the program what is focusing on logistics, which are the activities which we move materials within our warehouse, focusing on transportation, that's how we move the goods and what is the majority of the supply chain budget, and distribution, and that's focusing on how we get it to the customers. What are the elements we are going to discuss and to see in the program? First of all, we will focus on what logistics is and what types of strategies there are. In that part, in that module, we will focus on the logistics fundamentals. What is the supply chain? How do we move those goods? What is value cost within the logistics areas? Which strategies we can choose? What a framework is, and looking furthermore to performance measurement and how we can re-engineer and have continuous improvement inside of it. On the second day of the program, we will look at what logistics network design is, how we plan facilities, how we build facilities, and how we set up that complete network. And of course, one of the big elements is risk management inside of that one. Nowadays, sustainability and of course also reverse logistics flows are becoming more and more important. Sustainability, it's that we have to take care not only about profit, but also about the people and about the planet. So it's basically the green supply chain. Reverse logistics is something what is happening a lot, for instance, in e-commerce, where major retailers will get back 40 to 60% of the products they are sending out. You can imagine that a reverse logistics flow is something what is causing a lot of, let's say, headaches within an organization, because it's basically a negative sales process, but in the warehouse environment it's a very special receiving process, becoming more and more important. In the fourth module, we will look to what we call capacity planning and demand management. That are elements as forecasting, demand management, and how we translate that one into a capacity planning. This is basically one of the core elements also in the other modules, because that's based on the complete planning grid, what APICS is preaching all over the world in how you set up a planning and how you can integrate that into systems. Of course, there's some more to discuss about the planning part. We are going to discuss the sales and operation part, planning part of it. We are going to focus more in detail what distribution requirements planning is, the master schedule and material requirements planning, MRP, and of course sourcing and procurement. Then we will go to the fifth module. That's the order management. In that one, we are going to look slightly into some elements what is in the CSCP program. That's customer relationship management and how the order management process is working. In the next module, module 6, we will look at inventory management, how we manage our inventories, but also how we control it, what types of strategies we can have, what type of policies we can deploy to get our inventory in control. This one is also focusing on how it will work in warehouse environments. Elements like cycle counting or having inventory records available are all in that part. That's a nice bridge to what we're going to do on the fourth day. That's module 7, warehouse management. What is a strategy? Why do I put a warehouse somewhere? What are basic processes and how are we going to lay out a warehouse in the most optimal way? And then we're going to look into the details of material handling systems. Nowadays, warehouses become more and more automated, and I will show you several examples in how modern warehouses are looking. Then last but not least, we have the packaging element. How can we work with packaging in a warehouse that it's for the customer attractive, but also that we can move it in an efficient way. The next module, it's transportation. That's looking into the fundamentals of transportation, and of course then we are going into elements like the transport mode, road transportation, rail transportation, and of course sea transportation, and slightly we are going to look into the pipeline part, what is also there. Brings us to the last day, in which we are going to focus on intermodal transportation and other transportation mode, how we manage the transportation and how we can administer the transportation part, because we get all those invoices in of all the transport modes, all the documents, and we need to register that in some way. The last model, it's the global logistics considerations. In that one, we're going to focus more and more on what the infrastructure in the world is, how are goods moved, and what types of documentation and regulation is there around it. Of course, customs clearing and documentation is an important part of it, and in finance and payment options we are going to look in detail in what Incoterms are, the Incoterms 2020, but also what letter of credits are used for and how that process is working. And last but not least, we have to deal in international trade with differences in currency. Is the dollar high, then a lot of countries will notice that in their import part. And how can we optimize tax, and why are some companies located in a certain country? Then we will be at the end of the course, and we will debrief the course and prepare you for the final exam, what is being examined by APICS itself. So at the end of this instructor online course, you are not yet certified. You have to prove at APICS that you know all the subjects. So what we are going to present is an overview, guide you to all the material, and mentor you to that exam, what you need to take. Who should take this course? Of course, if you want to demonstrate that you have knowledge, expertise in the area of logistics, transportation and distribution, but also in streamlining and optimizing logistics, transport and distribution, then this course is very interesting. What I have noticed in my complete career is that people challenge you if you know something, but the moment you are certified in, for instance, logistics, transportation and distribution, they do not argue, then you are the expert. And that makes it easy in your job, but also if you have to look or want to look to a career move. It's ideal for you if you want to have more in-depth knowledge, and not only for your company, but how it works with other companies as well. We will look in the areas of physical logistics, but also international trade, what you can do with information technology, and how you can design an optimal warehouse, but also supply chain structure. People who take this certification are sometimes already certified in another logistics certification. You've seen it by myself. I have them all three because I think they add value in my area to have them all. And in all courses, I've learned something new, something better. So that's also a reason to take this certification. It might be that you are already certified in production and inventory management. Then you have, let's say, the incoming side, the internal side of the supply chain. And in this case, certified logistics, transportation and distribution will focus on the outside part of it. Furthermore, managers who are working in operations, but also in consulting or teaching in supply chain functions. For this, it's an ideal way to gather all the information in the field to do one exam to prove that you are knowledgeable about it, and then certainly you know what is going on. You know what is going on in that complete area of logistic transportation and distribution. You know what is in a warehouse. You know what the issues are in payments and so on. So that brings it as a very good education. Last, in that one, if you are employed in the field of logistics, transportation, distribution, or supply chain management, it's one of the certification what is going very close to, let's say, day-to-day operations. Where I mentioned it, CSCP is having a helicopter view. This one, it's going more in, let's say, the practical part of the logistics elements. And last but not least, if you are working with transport or warehouse management systems, this certification is the one you have to take, because you will find all the links to other elements. How do I earn that CLTD designation? There are 4 steps to the success.
Thank you for choosing to pursue the APICS CLTD designation. By earning this designation, you will demonstrate significant commitment to your profession and your career, distinguish yourself as an industry expert, and excel with your newly acquired specialized knowledge. Before you begin your preparation for the CLTD exam, it is important to understand the relationship between the APICS body of knowledge, the CLTD learning system, and the CLTD certification exam. The APICS Operations Management Body of Knowledge Framework identifies the core competencies, requirements, and best practices for professions within supply chain and operations management. The exam subcommittee looks at this body of knowledge and identifies a portion of the contents as critical for logistics, transportation, and distribution professionals. These key areas are then outlined in the CLTD Exam Content Manual, or ECM. And this body of knowledge is tested on the APICS CLTD certification exam. In 2018, APICS performed a job task analysis to validate the knowledge and skills required of individuals working in logistics, transportation, and distribution roles. The result of this analysis were the basis for the updated CLTD ECM in 2019. The ECM and recommended references are used by 2 subcommittees to develop CLTD materials. The APICS CLTD Exam Subcommittee prepares exam questions, while the APICS CLTD Courseware Subcommittee creates the CLTD learning system. The Exam Subcommittee aims to test your knowledge and your ability to apply that knowledge through the CLTD exam. There are multiple forms of the exam, so the specific questions you encounter may be different from another candidate. The exam is limited to 150 questions, so you will not be tested on every concept in the CLTD body of knowledge. However, coverage across all of the knowledge domains will be represented. The Courseware Subcommittee aims to educate you. The purpose of education is first to convey knowledge, and second, to give the learner a chance to apply that knowledge. The APICS CLTD learning system is designed to help you prepare for the APICS CLTD exam, as well as provide essential knowledge that you can apply at work today. This means that the learning system may include some content you may not see on the exam, but is foundational to understanding key ECM concepts. A copy of the ECM has been included in the front of your printed materials. It is also available to download in the Online Resource Center. You also have access to mapping documents, which indicate where each ECM concept is covered in the materials. We hope you have enjoyed this introductory video. The APICS CLTD learning system is designed to help you best prepare for the APICS CLTD certification exam. Best of luck with your studies.
So what is basically your road to success? First of all, and that's notable for most of you, you want to do something, but you find a lot of excuses that you will not do it. It's nice weather, it's not nice weather, I'm busy, I'm not doing. You find every excuse in not doing it. If all those excuses are away, you usually come into a situation that you say, yeah, but I'm not smart enough to do it. I can't do it. There are also reasons why you can't do it, but it's also one stage where you have to go through to become successful. Then you make the step. I want to do it. You're going into that certification program. We see people who are going to the internet, buy some books and want to start. But they need to figure out, and you also need to figure out, but how can you do it? How can you go into that part? Then a lot of people will say, yeah, it's expensive. It takes time. I need to do something. But to become successful, you have to make a move. And then you are going into that program. You decide to go into, for instance, an online program, what we will start next week, and try to give it a shot. The nice part, what you see in that progress, is that you figure out that if you spend some time on it, you can do it. It's not rocket science. It's maybe a lot what you have to learn, but it's not rocket science. You can understand everything what is going on in logistics and in supply chain management. And you will figure out that once you are in that route to join a course, that you are doing it. And in the end, there's a small step. It takes a little bit of time in studying it, but the nicest part is that you go to that exam and you make it. And for sure, most of you, no, I will say everybody of you will make that exam. It's not rocket science. You only have to work for it to go into that direction. And it starts with the first part. Yes, I want to do it. And that's for most of you the most difficult part. But I'm sure you will do it and you will be successful and you are satisfied when you did it. That's the basic part in how you become successful. How can we bring that one into, let's say, a model in if you decide to go in how do you become successful and how do you get to the end of the road? Because in all the actions you will take, you don't get it for free. You need to study, you need to do something. It's not only I have attendance in a course, no, you need to do something to get that exam. But that's why it's extremely valuable for employers that you have that one, because they know that you have studied for it and that you didn't get it for free. The first step in that one is that you have to plan your studies. And secondly, of course, study the materials. After that, you have to reinforce what you have learned and practice. And a lot of people, they see material, they read the material, and they think, I'm ready for the exam. But you need to practice. And especially in APICS programs, question making, it's not difficult, but there are some tricks inside of it. And you need to practice the concept and to make the questions. And finally, and that's most of them for you, it will be the easy part, is to take the exam. You will go, or you will do it online, go to a center, take the exam, make the questions. In the end, you press the button of the computer and you will see directly if you have made it. Looking to what it is APICS, we go to look to some of the numbers. In total, most of the people, most of the candidates will say they studied in total 75 hours. of which, let's say, 30 hours are in the online classes. So it means that you have to do something additional. Most, 3/4 of the candidates, take the exam 1 to 3 months after they complete the studies or did the online class. With a lot of people, half of it take the exam 1 month after it. That's important, because if you do it fast, and we go back to that part, if you are doing it, you have to climb the stairs. And if you wait 1, 2, 3 years after you took the first part, you mostly are at the bottom of the stairs again. So important is to do it fast and to plan it when you are going to do it. What type of tips I can give you? At least work back from a date to create a plan. I can help you on that one in what you need to do, but make a stake in the ground and say, for instance, I want to do the exam in September. And then we can calculate back in what you need to do every week and how much time it will take. The other one is, of course, take your exam soon after, because then everything is fresh in your head. You have seen everything, you know where your difficulties are and where you need to study more. Start early. Don't think it's now going holidays. Don't wait till tomorrow. Start early, start the process and get it in there. The other one is to learn in segments, to look at certain subjects and to finalize those subjects. The learning system, where what we are using in that one, will help you to structure your studies and not to start lost in the part. It's like, and most of you most likely know it, in How to Eat an Elephant. That's difficult. It's big, you don't get it in. The only solution is how to eat an elephant. It's to make small portions of it and to start with small portions. That's exactly what we also want to do in getting you to that exam. And last but not least, once you have created that plan, stick to it, because a plan, of course, we can change something on it, but do not make a plan and then throw it away. Try to follow, note what you have done, and still look in what you need to do. Planning is one of the most important parts in that one. So if we have to look in timing, also again, something in numbers, what does it take you? First of all, it's the review course. That's 5 days, 6 hours of training, where you see everything what is in the program. Of course, at home, you need to do something. You need to read the material. That's about 1,000 pages, and it will take you between 15 to 30 hours, depending on everything is in English, on your level of English, but also in what you have done before. But again, it's doable. Some people, they say, I do not read the materials, I directly go to the quizzes. That's also an option, but it's depending on your background. And they answer all the questions, and if they are wrong, they're going to look it back. It's also a way of doing that. Making those questions will take you, it are over 1,000 questions. If you do it very efficient and in that one, it will take you 3 hours, but most of it, it's going into the direction of 12 hours. And what is a way of doing that? Just do every day something. Not try to do everything, all 1,000 questions at once. We have in the system also the part what we call the pre-test and online exams. There are in total, there's one pre-test inside of it for 50 questions, and there is one online exam you can do for 150 questions. That will take you between 2 and 3 hours. The 150 question exam, it's an example of what you can expect on the actual exam. Then you have to go to the actual exam. That's 150 questions. You get 3.5 hours for it, but most of you will be having sufficient time. Some people also want to have some guidance and some additional exam training from an instructor. We can also provide that usually we take that in 2 times 4 hours, that we go to questions, to answer strategies, to help you to give the feedback on that one. But we have to arrange that separately. And in the end, you will get this piece of paper, what is stating that you are certified in logistics, transportation, and distribution, and you are allowed to put the credentials behind your name. What can I give you there? Of course, it's possible to just buy the material, but we see that the passing rate is increasing dramatically up when you take instructor-led classes. Why? Because there are 2 reasons for it. One reason is that in the instructor-led class, you see all the material, you see every topic what we are going to discuss. So you get a better understanding of what is actually required on it. And I can give you a lot from my experience, what makes it, let's say, more tangible in that. But the other one is that the chance that you are making the exam is bigger than if you do it alone. And that's quite simple. Most of you will buy the books. They will say, I will do it someday, and forget about it. And after 1, 2, 3 years, the books are still there and not used. The other one is that I can give you for APICS, it's applicable more maybe than for other exams. The trick is in the question. So APICS is specialized in making questions. So that means I always used to understand at the university that if we have multiple choice questions, I have 4 answers. 1 is complete rubbish, 2 are of the second one is somewhat better, but also a rubbish answer, and 2 are close to each other. In APICS questions, most of the times, all 4 answers are possible, and you have to find the best possible answer. And that makes it difficult if you are not trained in that one. So practice the online questions is the best method to pass the exam. Just make questions and improve yourself in answering questions. The study plan, we have 9 modules. We will create with you the complete plan, and in that plan you will see how much time there's needed for reading, for making a quiz, and so on. Based on that one, you can do something with, for instance, half an hour a day for a period of time, and then you will get into that part. It's stated in only reading the material and doing the quizzes that you need something like 40 hours to get through the material. What I mentioned before, it's going much faster and it's better reinforced when you use the online training sessions, or maybe in the end of the year, the face-to-face training sessions. What is the material? We have the books. I have them right here. It's not a lot. It's just 2 books, but in pages it's about 1,000 pages. Of course, you can take all the reference material, but that will give you somewhat more pages. because there are in total 7 books where they take all the information from. So the APICS material, it's basically a summary, a syllabus of all the base materials, the base references. Furthermore, we will have the online part. We have a learning center where you also can find the books, but also the exam content manual, some other references, some other documentation. But most of all, in there are the questions, the over 1,000 questions, pre-exams and post-exams, what you can use for your preparation. If we look to the reading materials, currently there are 9 modules in 2 books with approximately 1,000 pages. It reflects the most current APICS body of knowledge. Looking, I already mentioned that in what we are going to do in the days, logistics overview and strategy, network design, sustainability and reverse logistics, capacity planning, demand management, order management and inventory management, warehousing, transportation, and global logistics consideration. For people who might have looked in the past to this program, since this year the program is changed. So we are now in version 2, how we call it. So there are some subjects more in the program and some subjects less in the program. But I will help you with that one. What else do we have? The web-based study tools, pre-test process. There's a smart study tool and a tool inside of it where I showed you how we can plan it. We have module and section specific quizzes. You can see your progress. You can see that you are improving. That first maybe you had 30% of the questions correct, and after you rehearsed it, you are on 70%. So you can track that and do it all the time again. Practice exams, the glossary. So there's an online glossary on it and flashcards that are those things to practice, but I will show you also another way in how to do that. Resource center I mentioned. You can have mobile access. You can even see it on your phone, on your iPad, on your company computer and at home. And most of all, the 1,000 questions in the database. Again, if we are looking currently, due to the complete Corona COVID part, there are some delays possible in global shipping. We will bring you as soon as possible the printed materials, but we can provide and we will provide you all the access to the learning system right now. So you have everything, including the books, online. You can do everything, but after that, you will receive the printed materials as soon as, let's say, global shipping it allows. They are, as mentioned, available, downloadable. You can get it on a e-reader or whatever to use it for your studies. Studying the materials, the printed books, the online part, and bring it also to your iPad, telephone, or whatever, and you can find back all the parts. There's one thing I need to mention to you. We can help you with everything to make it easy for you to get the exam. But you need to read the modules. That's something we cannot do for you, or I cannot do for you. You have to go through the material to the questions by yourself. The other one, what we cannot do, is to make the exam for you. So there is something you need to do it yourself, but I can make your life somewhat easier by pointing out what is important and what is less important.
Welcome to the online learning system. This video will show you how to use the online tools. This is the welcome screen. From this page, you can review the introductory video
and then follow the 3 steps to success: assess, study, and practice. Let's begin with Step 1, assess. The Assess page includes a pretest you can use to discover your strengths and weaknesses. Then, utilize the Smart Study tool to customize your learning experience. Step 2, study. In the Study section, you can access the e-reader version of the reading materials, quizzes, flashcards, videos, and activities. Flashcards are available as interactive online flashcards, as well as printable flashcards downloadable from the Resource Center. When using the flashcards, the system tracks your progress, so you can leave and return at any time. Quizzes allow you to test your understanding. You receive immediate feedback as you answer questions, and the system tracks your progress so you can leave mid-quiz and return later. Once you have completed a quiz, your results will appear and your attempt will be recorded for review. See the Quick Reference Guide in the Resource Center for additional information on reviewing attempts and using other system features. Step 3, practice. The Practice section completes your studies. It includes a post-test, practice exams, and final preparation resources. The post-test interface is similar to the pre-test and quizzes, while the practice exams are slightly different. The practice exams simulate the exam interface you will experience on exam day. This means that the exam is timed, and it does not provide you with immediate feedback. But you can flag questions for review before you submit your exam for marking. Once you complete the exam, answers and rationale can be viewed in your report. A resource you will use throughout the course is the toolbar. This is available on every page. Search or navigate by letter in the online glossary which pops up to assist you wherever you are. The Reports area allows you to compare your results for the tests and exams as well as view your best quiz scores. Your individual attempts can be accessed through the quizzes themselves.
The Learning Center. The Learning Center is very important in guiding you through the studies. And after, let's say, our lessons are completed, you will still use the Learning Center to track your progress, but also to find back all the information. How can we reinforce the concept and practice? We are working with web-based training. So we have online sessions for 5 days, 6 hours per day, going through material, looking to presentations and practicing, discussing what is going on. What are we going to do in those online classes? We will focus on what the material is. So focus on questions and answers. I will give you a summary of the reading material we are having to guide you through that process, what you can expect. In the sessions, we will use material from APICS, but also some other materials, but take the order of the books, of the modules. So basically you can start your studying, your reading during those sessions, listen, read, look at what's going on. Furthermore, we will work on case studies. Those case studies are in the online learning center. They have questions behind it, but for every module, we will work in a case study where you get the understanding, the connection between all the topics which we are going to discuss. Because in general, APICS programs, they are structured in such a way that you have to learn a lot of different topics. And the trick of exam making is in how you combine something. It's not an exam where you only need to memorize and they will ask you straightforward questions. Most of the questions are related to application of the concepts. This is one of the questions which you are using in the online system. Those questions are more focused on how we say memorizing. And in this example, what is the type of request? what would be sent out to 20 to 30 providers and try to look at it and what will be the answer. In this case, it's an RFI, a return of a request for information. In the Learning Center, you will see the information, where you can find it, where it's discussed, but also what the rationale of the correct or not correct answers is. In every section, you have a lot of those questions, and it triggers you to make to study the material and to go back in finding where the answers are. The other one, what we will do during the sessions is to train you in interpretation of the questions. What is important to know? How are links being made between the different topics? Another one, and usually I will give you that one as part of homework, that are the so-called discussion activities. In some cases, we do it online during the class, depending on the group size. We can discuss actually online, but in some cases it will also be given to you as homework, and I will use it in the next lesson to look at it. Those discussion activities are mainly focusing on elements, what you have studied, what we have discussed, but also bring that back to your situation. So in this case, there is an example where you need to look if your company is tracking and measuring supplier or carrier performance. And if it's not, then that's the answer, and it's an easy discussion. No, not an easy discussion. Then we can discuss why not and what is needed to get into that part. And in the other way, if you do so, then you can look in whether it's effective, how you can improve it, and how you evaluate it. And last but not least, look in what you are going to track. So on a very simple element as performance indicators, we can have a lot of questions and a lot of discussion in how you could do that one. If you have done everything, so you studied the materials, you took the online classes, we had all those activities, then you can go to take the exam. The first question in that one is that you need to decide when you want to take that exam. Registration, it's always open and you can do it on demand. It's not always computer-based. The basics what APICS is having is that they have test centers all over the world. In all types of cities, there are test centers. Only there are, I think, a dozen in the kingdom in all the cities. But due to the COVID situation, they have also, let's say, proctored exam possibilities, what you can do online. It's stated it's always open, you can register always, but in the face-to-face exam centers, it's not always possible to take it at the moment you desire. There are some centers who are only scheduling it on certain dates or in certain times, but in practice you can find it any time. What you need to do is arrange your eligibility to take this exam, and that's the same for CSCP, but not for CPIM. You must be eligible to take that exam. That means that you have to have 3 years of related experience. You must have or a bachelor's degree or hold an active certification in something else. Then you are eligible to take the exam. That's an online procedure. It's for free, so don't worry about that one. And most of you, of everybody, will pass that one. You only need to prove one of those three things. I will also help you in this one. Then you need to purchase an exam or an authorization to test. That's a separate part where Leoron can assist you on doing that, and even they give bundles where all the material, online training, but also the exam is part of. Having those three elements, so you know when to do it, you are eligible to do it, and you have an authorization to test, you can schedule the exam. It's one exam, 3.5 hours, 150 multiple choice questions, of which 130 are scored. So there are 20 test questions inside. That means that 20 questions are not counting towards your result. The only problem is that you do not know which questions they are, but APICS is testing all the time questions. So it might be that you have the feeling that some questions are not correct or too difficult or too strange, and that might be one of those test questions, but you do not know which one they are. The results you get directly after you press submit button. You see if you have passed or not. And if you pass the exam, you can add the credentials CLTD directly behind your name. There are possibilities to do it proctored online. The party is person few who have those test centers, which you can take the physical test, or you can have the proctored online exam. In that one, you can take it at home. Don't expect that you can take all your materials, all types of experts around it, because they will ask you to show the room with a camera. Microphone should be on, camera should be on to do that part. By the way, that's the same in the test center. You are filmed, you are followed, that you cannot cheat the exam. And sometimes that's not nice, but on the other hand, that's also the reason why employers love people who have APICS certification exam, because you cannot cheat them. Can you be successful? If we look in what the average are in the past years, and I have to say it started the first exams in 2017, so we do not have a long history, but let's say in average people have 70% will pass the exam. So if you don't pass it the first time, you can reschedule it, study, and do it again. And the only limitation for retakes is that there should be, from my head, 2 weeks in between. So you cannot do it the same or the next day. You have to wait a period to do so. There is a difference in rates of North America and outside North America. Most of it you have to see outside North America. That's everybody in the world, so also the people in China and people who are not very familiar with the American language. So in most cases we see a slightly lower score, but in 2019 we saw the opposite. So basically it doesn't matter if you you do not have a big advantage if you live or are an American citizen. My tip on that one is don't go to the exam if you haven't done it completely. So if you read the system, read the books, did the questions, and the online test should at least have a passing rate above 70%.
Hello again, this is Liesl Smith. This is the last section of the series of techniques for taking the APICS exam with confidence. And in this session, we're going to talk about how to know when you are ready. We'll talk about the tools, the rules and guidelines, and the keys to success. There is a difference between being prepared to take an exam and feeling like you're prepared for the exam. The reality is that even the most determined and well-qualified, high-functioning candidates will feel some form of fear or anxiety, intimidation and doubt about whether or not they are truly ready to sit for the exam. Don't be paralyzed by these feelings. It is human nature to feel this way. What's important to remember is that you've gotten this far already, and at a certain point you could risk moving into the realm of over-preparing, overthinking, and psyching yourself out. No one wants to fail the exam and have to take it again, so it makes sense that you will feel anxious. So this video is here to help you mentally determine if you are ready to sit the exam. Before we get into what you should consider in order to know that you're ready for the exam, let's cover one particular point right now. There is no silver bullet or magical solution that is going to tell you when you are ready. There is no one test, no one exam, no one criteria that you can check a box and that will tell you that yes, it's time to sit. No one can say that just by getting 80% on the post-test, that you are immediately ready for that exam. The reality is that it's more complex than that. So the question is, do your quiz scores even matter? Yes, they absolutely do matter. However, the way that you give those scores need to be considered. Remember, the chapter, section, or module quizzes you take are testing your knowledge gained for that specific subject matter. However, that subject matter may only end up being one question on the exam. Scoring in the 60 to 70% range may be appropriate, but if you want to target a higher score for those quizzes, feel free to take them again until you are in the 80 to 90% range, but only do so after you've reviewed the reading materials again. Taking the quizzes over and over will only result in memorization, not learning. As for the pre-test, post-test and practice exams being an indicator of success on the exam, there are two things to keep in mind. Firstly, remember that the actual exam has many forms. Form 1 might be more difficult than Form 2, and therefore, on a scaled score, 65% on one exam might be a pass, while on another form, 85% would be needed. The tests and practice exams in the learning system have not been put into a scaled score like the exams have, so your raw result cannot be officially indicative of how you would do on the exam. Secondly, while the pre-test, post-test and practice exams aim as much as they can to emulate the experience you will have on the exam day and are balanced to the exam domains as the real exam will be, the questions are not written by the same team of experts, so it's impossible to ensure that they will be exactly the same. Even some of the retired questions are items that were on live exams, but the format they use may be different from the formats on the current exam forms. The key takeaway when it comes to these tests exams is that while they can be a good indicator of your readiness, they are not the only indicator, and here is why. One reason why it isn't possible to say that by getting 80% or higher on the post-test, you are now ready for the exam, is that it entirely depends on how you got to that 80%. Did you read through all the content and when a topic wasn't clear, researched it to understand it better, then spent your time practicing the quiz questions in the section or chapter it related to? After that, did you then look at the questions you missed and looked into why you got it wrong and reread that material to understand it better? Then, after this revision, did you take the test again and get a much higher score as a result? Or instead, did you simply retake the quiz multiple times until you accidentally memorized the questions? Did you feel like you knew all the questions and wondered if you should use free questions online? Remember that free questions online might be a fun tool, but quality and correctness are not guaranteed. If you took the path of learning over memorization, but you're still wondering if you did everything you needed to do, follow this checklist. Did you utilize the tools and activities? The Smart Study tool lists all the activities you have in the system. Use this as a checklist to make sure you've done it all at least once. These check marks are also in the online tools as you move through the activities in the menu. This means you have read the materials, used the study quizzes at least once, used or created your own flashcards, watched videos, and completed activities. The second question is, did you revise and review areas that you were still weak on after you read the materials, took the quizzes, and completed the activities? Remember, you don't need to review everything, just focus on the necessary areas. Try teaching the material to someone else or try writing your own quiz questions as practice. Thirdly, schedule your exam. If not, schedule the exam 1 month from when you believe you will complete and use that month to review and stick to the plan. Sometimes that feeling of being ready will only come once you've made that date and committed to it. The closest thing to a silver bullet or a magic answer for readiness is asking yourself this: do you understand the content to the point where you are able to be presented with a question, interpret it, know what it's asking, understand it, understand why certain answers available are correct and incorrect, and do this consistently? If the answer is yes, then you are ready to sit for the exam. You've gotten yourself this far. Sometimes it is time to just go for it. There has to be a point in your studies where you have to say, enough, I'm ready. Trust yourself and your preparation. Give yourself a timeline and stick to it, and then take that test. Don't let your own mind keep you from sitting for the exam. Fear is not the winner here. You won't ever get to 100% or know everything, and you don't need to. If you have taken the path of learning rather than memorization, you've already achieved so much in your journey to the exam that even if you don't feel prepared, you probably are. Make sure that you take the time to acknowledge your journey this far and remember to enjoy the exams. Act confident, be confident. The worst that can happen is that you fail an exam and you can take it again. One test does not define you, but once you pass, it gives you the opportunity to prove to yourself and to others what you know. Your wealth is not the coins you have in your pocket, but the knowledge you carry in your head. Keep on learning.
Why should you earn the CLTD designation? Why do you want to have those things behind of your name? First of all, I mentioned that employers like it. Mostly when they like it, they increase your salary. But on the other hand, I will give you the 5 key takeaways. First of all, it will make you somebody who can identify but also maintain optimal inventory levels. You will be able to set what is needed as an inventory. The second one is that you are able to manage and execute orders with an emphasis on the logistics element. So not on what is happening in systems, but what is actually happening with the product. How is it moved from your supplier up until the final customer? The third one is that you are able to improve look in distribution and inventory management. You will be the expert knowing everything about how the product goes to your customer and how to maintain those inventories. First, the fourth element is identify and mitigate risk in logistics and transportation. Risk management is something what we have seen in the past months more than we would love to, is that suddenly the world stops turning, but our products needs to be delivered. We have to assess risks we have to focus on business continuity to get the supply chain going. And that's usually not, let's say, the managers who are looking in that. It's the practice of all those who do that operational part. Last but not least, it's the fifth element. You will be able to develop and monitor warehouse performance metric, but also looking in what is going on in the transportation part. Are we delivering on time, and where can I improve those elements? That brings me to the end of this introduction. Thank you.